This episode is brought to you by Muntins Malts, a company that is passionate about providing premium malts to brewers worldwide. For over a century, Muntins has been a leading supplier of brewing and distilling malts, offering the finest British malted barley on the market. You can experience the difference Muntins offers by joining a recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club, because every kit that ships out now includes premium Muntins malt. You know, we've known the Muntins crew for a long time, and I can tell you, friend, you're going to love brewing with their grains. Ask your local supply shop to carry Muntins malts, or homebrewers can pick up some right now online at txbrewing.com. Join our Trub Club at homebrewhappyhour.com/club. Be a part of the community and come brew with us. Thank you, Muntins, for supporting our efforts and homebrewers worldwide. Today's show is brought to you by hopsdirect.com. Grown in the esteemed Yakima Valley on the Pewterball family farm, hopsdirect.com offers the widest variety of hops available online at incredibly competitive pricing. It's simple. They grow hops, they sell hops, and they ship hops straight from their family-owned farm to your doorstep. Producing the highest quality hops is hopsdirect.com's passion, and they're proud to be an independent grower in the craft beer industry. Go to hopsdirect.com right now and get what you need to make your brew day better. That's hopsdirect.com. Today's show is brought to you by Imperial Yeast. You hear us gushing over Imperial Yeast all the time, and that's because their yeast performs for us in every batch that we brew. Imperial Yeast is adored by commercial breweries and home brewers alike. Their pitch-right pouches are jam-packed with over 200 billion fresh yeast cells, guaranteed to deliver flawless, fast fermentations every time. Imperial Yeast strains are grown by a team of pro brewers and home brewers who live to help other brewers learn more and ferment better. Join any recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club and get a free upgrade to premium Imperial Yeast with every recipe kit that ships out to you. Learn more at homebrewhappyhour.com/club and come brew with us.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Cold storing bulk hops, flow rate when using wort chillers, and bourbon barrel oat chips affecting bottle carbonation. This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 319. Well, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions, and sometimes we discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com. Click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or you can call, leave us a voicemail, get yourself a $25 gift card at the hotline 325-305-6107. I'm one of your hosts, Joshua Stubing, joined as always by my co-host. He is the Director of Operations at cmbecker.com, Mr. James Carlson. Hello, my friend.
Hoi, hoi.
It is just you and I. Mr. Burns has abandoned ship. He is in New Orleans with his lovely bride for the IBDEA conference this year. Do you remember the only time you and I have been to the IBDEA was 2018? And
yep, in Orlando, Florida.
I went a day early so that I could go to Disney by myself without anybody. Probably the best trip I've ever done to Disney.
Those pictures are hilarious.
My wife and kids hated me, but and my wife doesn't watch, so I can confess, best trip ever. But my favorite part of that whole trip, remember, I wasn't full time with Todd. I was still freelancing.
No, you were still freelancing. You and Liz went. You went by yourself, and then you took Todd's wife, Liz.
She saw my photos from a Thursday. We're working the first day that Friday, and she's telling Todd, "Hey, tomorrow is Saturday. I want to go to Epcot. It's the Flower Garden Festival. Josh was there all day yesterday. Looked at these photos. It was beautiful." And Todd's like, "Hell no, I don't do Disney World. Pardon me, that wasn't my Todd Burns. Hell no, Liz, I don't do Disney World. That's terrible." And Liz, poor damsel in distress, needed a Prince Charming.
They need to go back and check out your Instagram page or that video where you're on that ride and you've got your eyes open, looking around, smiling. I was like, wow.
My wife
can't fake that kind of excitement.
She thought I was on drugs. I was the Disney pixie dust, but
Disney.
Yeah, but yeah. So Liz says, "Well, I'm gonna get Josh to take me," and Todd's like, "No," and then she's the boss too. She is actually the boss, capital T, the boss. And yeah, he ended up he gave me a wad of cash and said, "Take her to Epcot. Just don't tell me about it." Best trip ever. Yeah, I tell him every year, if the IBDEA goes back to Orlando, I'm there, buddy. And he won't let me. I am banned from IBDEA if it's ever in Florida. But to be fair, nothing against, they're great people, great conference. It is a very business centric. Like, remember the talks and all that were just dry. They were dry. A
whole different age group there
we go.
We're used to.
There we go. That's what it was. You brought the median age down by a lot.
Yeah, it was. There's lots of words, lots of adjectives.
Yeah. Yeah, we can just say viejo for my Spanish-speaking friends. Más viejo. It was fun. But yeah, they're in New Orleans this year. I always figure the heads of, because IBDEA is not a huge organization. I figure
it's a tight-knit group of people.
It's very tight-knit, and I think they picked their spots based on where they hadn't vacationed in a while. Like, that's because remember what last year was Miami, or was that 2 years ago? I think it was last year.
I don't remember.
2 years ago, I think they canceled
one of those where
it.
I'm like, have fun, Todd.
Have fun. You did. Oh, yeah. I think, Todd, I think you went out of your way to tell Todd, I don't know if you're bringing me, but please don't. And Todd was like,
yeah, well, it just didn't make sense for both of us to go or even any board. Todd, that's definitely Todd's arena. And that's the person that needs to go for sure.
Absolutely. And he's about to have another neck surgery. And I was like, dude, but you're just now getting back on the road. Like, that's where we need you. We need you on the road. When Todd's out there doing sales, that's where, like you said, that's where he shines. We need him back on the road. He's like, oh, I might be out for like 6 weeks. I was like, well, I'm not going on the road. That people don't want. We're going to start talking about faucets and equipment, and I'm going to take them down this like conspiracy. We're going to be looking at moon landing photos in 20 minutes, and then we lost the client. He can't send me. And
and you do have a family to deal with, and
they're all right.
I mean, who's going to take? I can't do it either. Who's going to take care of little Gracie?
Yeah. Who's going? Yeah, great. Well, road trip Gracie. I bet she.
Yeah.
Which all this small talk about.
She's actually asleep right now.
Is she at your feet? Of
Under
course.
the desk. Yeah.
Of course. Let me segue this to make it relevant to the people who haven't dropped out. We are giving a presentation at HomebrewCon 2023 in San Diego. Beautiful San Diego. I think I have something on the screen. I do. Boom. Serving your homebrew. All about draft beer systems. Speakers, Joshua Stubing, Todd Burns, and James Carlson. I'm holding up the page from their browser. It's June 22nd through the 24th. They have not told us yet what day of the week our presentation will be. We're extremely excited. This is going to be kind of a elaboration of what we did for HomebrewCon Online 2020. So we're going to be going over the various systems, why we think kegging is superior, vastly superior to bottling, and how you can accomplish draft beer at home on a variety of budgets. Like, it's not just a huge investment. There are people who get by under $150, under $100 if you catch us on Black Fridays. But like, there are systems that can get you serving your beer in a keg. And let's not, we have a question on the show, the last question of the show, talking about some bottling issues. And we're not going to be strangers then, like we aren't now or have ever been, that we don't bottle. Kegging is because
I started this whole thing even before homebrewing. I bought a keg set up. So
you knew
only bottled one time, and that was Clay made me do it.
I like that. He's gonna be in the YouTube comments. No, I didn't. I didn't make you, man.
I protested, but he talked me into doing it. We did a 5-gallon batch. So
I don't mind making fun of Clay because he's flaked out on us like 4 times now.
He's gonna definitely comment on that
one. I'm exaggerating, Clay. It's been like twice, but we tried to have him on the 300th. And he wouldn't come to the ranch. Now he's gonna have to commit to the 350th. And then when he flakes out on that, the 400th. We'll keep going, Clay. This show's never dying. We Bay-Base kids. We don't die.
Yeah.
We multiply.
The views may, but we won't. Right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. HomebrewCon, like I said, June. Let me put it back on the screen. June 22nd through the 24th of this year in beautiful San Diego. Registration opens March the 7th. I think it opens even before that if you're a member of the AHA, which thank you guys at the AHA for reminding me my membership is active. When they told us they accepted our talk, one of the things was, oh yeah, just make sure you have an active membership. And I was like, Todd's been doing mine for years. Did he do it? And yeah, he did.
I don't know if mine's active.
It is. I checked it. You're active.
Okay.
I'm
okay,
yeah,
good.
exactly. Y'all had bought a multi-year a few years ago. So all of ours end at the end of this year, or like September of this year. So we're good. We're good through the talk. And y'all keep getting Zymergy. Zimmergy? Is that a trub?
Zimmergy.
Zimmergy. Yeah. Okay. I say Zymergy and I say trub. But we get the magazine. So that was my first giveaway.
See, I got my first.
You got it, bro. Yeah.
I did, finally.
I'm glad it does it let you register online? Did it give you that?
I tried to do that, and it said to please, it'll send me a password, and it might take up to 10 minutes. That was yesterday. So
okay, well, if it's not, we're thankfully we know the dudes, the editors over there. So let me know.
Brew Your Own is a fantastic resource online, but you have to have a subscription to get into the meat and potatoes on that website.
Which you do now, though.
Really
but you do have a
publication.
subscription, thanks to a really generous donation. It was just
thank you, Josh.
The only nice thing I did in all of 2022, and I waited till December. So that HomebrewCon. Oh, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Todd's also out. Well, it's because only the conference, but today's his birthday.
Yeah,
happy birthday!
How old is he now?
He's a year older than you, isn't he?
No, he's 2 years older than me.
I don't know if he's 55 or 56. How old are you?
Yeah, I think I'm 53. So
wait, so you're gonna be 54 in September?
Yeah.
So
October.
Pardon me. So then he's got to be 56 then.
That's what I'm thinking. 56.
He's in his late
4 years away, man.
Yeah, he is. But his family lives forever. His pop looks great, and he's like 88, going on 89.
He's awesome. Yeah.
He is. He and his mom. They're both in their late 80s, getting around town to their bridge games and their breakfast meetups. And he's been retired longer than he worked. Like that, he retired like at 58, and now he worked for or 55, I think is what he said he retired at. And he told me one of the last trips I was up there, like, I've been retired longer than I actually worked. I was like, that's incredible.
That's awesome.
Because I'm going to retire.
I won't be able to boast that.
Well, that's what I was just about to say too. I was like, not just my family history, but no necessity. I'm going to be my retirement's my deathbed. But that's a whole other episode of the show. Unless Dogecoin takes off again. Fingers crossed, everybody. My crypto portfolio is hurting. Todd's birthday, HomebrewCon. Oh, because I know it's only the 22nd, but this month, guys, does not have a ton of days in it. So it is the last call, boom, up on the screen for the Irish Dry Stout. If you join a recipe receiving tier of our Chub Club at patreon.com/homebrew happy hour, premium grains provided by our friends at Muntons, premium hops provided by our friends at hopsdirect.com, and of course, premium delicious strains of yeast provided from our friends at Imperial Yeast. You can learn more about those companies in the show notes. Go to their website, support them. Join our Chub Club, support us. We greatly appreciate everybody. We've got a ton of people from the $3 tier up into we have people, James, giving us $100 some odd a month to get 15-gallon recipe kits. Isn't that wild?
That's cool. Yeah,
I love it.
That's a bargain too, because
that's what and that literally. Yeah. Remember, we still have a guy, and he's made me. He's like, I don't really care if you name my name, but I'd rather not because I don't want to appear as a jerk. He doesn't listen to the show at all. He likes the novelty of this is basically a beer club of the month, and he just likes it.
I mean, it really is.
It's not just a beer club, but like you said, he even said prices of kits at a lot of places has gone up, or quality of kits has gone up. The best feedback I ever get is that the quality of your kits is phenomenal. Like, we get a lot of feedback where people are like, especially now that we have named sponsors, right? I mean, we've had Imperial forever was one of the biggest attention getters for people to join the club. They're like, I'd love to get into liquid yeast. I've heard Imperial's great. Let me try it. Then they get hooked on it. adding Hops Direct, where people are like, oh, I buy from Hops Direct already. Now I can, get them at a discount when you do the math. And then premium grains from our English friends over in England. I was about to be redundant. and I almost did an accent. They watched the show. I don't want to offend them. Great people. We're actually going to hang out with them a lot at HomebrewCon. We're planning.
Oh yeah, that's I can't wait. HomebrewCon's going to be fun.
It's going to be so much
Finally,
fun.
We missed it for what, 4 years now?
2019 was the last year we went in person. Then 2020 was online. 2021 was online. 2022 was in Pittsburgh. I might edit that out. We have some listeners there that I'm friends with. I'm just giving y'all a hard time. I really love this city. I love it. No, really, Phil. It's great. Pennsylvania's great. Woo. Actually, I love Amish country. But it was in Pittsburgh, so we didn't go. But we also did not get a booth. That's why we didn't go. And they denied our talk last year, which was another reason why we didn't make it. But we're official speakers now. I can add that to my resume. So again, before I get into the feedback and all the questions, just one final reminder. Why don't y'all go over to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. Join a recipe receiving tier of the Trub Club. Get the Irish Dry Stout if you join anytime between now and the end of the month. Next week is going to be early March, and so then we will announce some really fun things we're doing for March and a contest that might be coming back. I've said too much. So with all of that stuff out of the way, let me get this set up because it's time for listener feedback. I love it when we have some voicemail listener feedback. And this week, it's a feedback from our good buddy, Jonathan Marute, about metallic taste coming from a keg.
Hey, Josh. It's Jonathan up in Fort Worth, Texas. Just wanted to give you a little bit of feedback on the last episode. There was a question about a metallic taste in a keg that wouldn't go away due to contamination caused by, I think it was a connection that wasn't stainless or whatever. A good idea to try is to change out all the O-rings on the keg. Those O-rings can hold odors and stuff like that a lot more than the stainless can. You can get stainless awfully clean with the different kinds of brewery wash, but those O-rings have a little bit of porosity to them, and they can absorb some nastiness. This is also a good tip for fermenters. A lot of times, like if you have the spike conical fermenters have the big gasket up at the top, and if your fermenter is starting to smell, it's probably because that gasket needs to be taken out and cleaned extremely. So Todd can probably talk in more detail about the different kinds of O-rings that are available for kegs. I know there's a bunch of different kinds, silicone and various things, and there's probably some that are better than others for this. But one way that hopefully this person can save their keg is to just change out all the O-rings, and it shouldn't cost more than a couple dollars to do that. Remember to do the poppets too, because those have a little rubber gasket inside of them too. So that's it. Thanks for another great episode, and we'll talk to you later.
And thank you for the voicemail, my friend. He's right. And I don't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday, so I don't know what we covered. That was 2 weeks ago. But we have had people, or we've received kegs rather, where we know root beer was in it because of what, like Jonathan's saying, where, oh my gosh, that root beer just permeated in those O-rings.
It does.
And you clean it and all that, and you're like, I still smell root beer. Oh crap, I gotta replace all this stuff. Like for whatever reason, because these are all soda kegs. I mean,
mm-hmm.
I can't think of any. Maybe in the last 5 years, James, we've sourced kegs that weren't used for soda, but they were all manufactured for soda, right? I mean, the used ones that we get, not the new ones, obviously. Yeah. The used ones. So
we got some new used ones that were actually for coffee, but
that's right.
Just about all
that's right.
The old soda kegs that we've got in, seems like half of them are root beer.
Yeah, and what is it about root beer that just it just saturates O-rings like crazy? Where like the Coke ones and all the other, like the Coke ones were the pin lots from, and you get those and you're like, yeah, they clean great, no biggie. You just make sure they seal up. Okay, they're good to go. But yeah, the root beer ones, like, son of a gun, it can be a hassle getting it out. But yeah, that's great feedback from Jonathan. And Todd's not here to comment. He could, but we decided to take this feedback when Todd's not here. Those O-rings on the spike ones, I think that's the only time I ever hear Todd verbally acknowledge when he messes up, because sometimes he doesn't put them on all the way, and the slightest amount of thing will let an air leak, and he'll be like, "Hey, do I have a stuck fermentation?" But it was because there was like there is delicate the right word. You use the CF15 there. You just have to make sure it's in the right spot as you tighten it down, and sometimes Todd's quick about it.
Definitely, because I'm doing pressure fermentation, and then we once it's done, we keep it on gas so it finishes carbonating. That big clamp on the top, all the clamps, I make sure they're snug. Yeah. Don't over tighten them, because then you could break the band, and that's what even worse. But
it'd be bad news bears.
Make sure they're good and smooth. Yeah,
absolutely. So thank you, Jonathan, for leaving that voicemail. A reminder: when you leave us a voicemail, whether it be for feedback or for a question, to 325-305-6107. You get yourself a $25 gift card to KegConnection.com, much like our buddy Chris, who is our first question of this week. He left a voicemail. It is Chris from California.
Hey, this is Chris from California, and going to ask a question, and I have a little share. So the question is, people mention you should keep your hops in the freezer, but I keep them in my teaser, which is cold, but it's not at freezing. And I'd like to know, do you think that's cold enough? So now on the share, I recently brewed the Dusseldorf alt beer from your recipe, and I made a little minor mistake. When I was telling the homebrew shop the recipe, instead of saying 1.75 ounces of carafa to give it a little color, I said 1.75 pounds.
Oh, no.
So I basically made 5% ABV cold brew coffee.
Yeah.
It's still drinkable, believe it or not, but it's definitely not an alt beer. All right, guys, you take care. Keep up the good work.
I love that. I knew you'd get a kick out of that, because you just had you had
I did a alt beer
with your alt beer
with kilograms instead of pounds, and just totally messed the recipe up.
You say that
turned into a dunkel, but
it's an incredible beer, dude. I love it. We have it. We just tapped it at his house. I haven't actually had a pour from it, but when I'm at the barn, I pretty much floated that keg myself. I love it. Oh, no. And the fact that you say it's a dunkel is funny, because I was thinking that the first time I tried it, I was like, this is between an alt and a dunkel. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Alt stout. Yeah. Alt stout.
Yeah, and that's what Todd was calling it. Yeah, the alt stout. Or you came up with that. He called it, instead of alt stout. I will obviously let me give some of my input for the first part of his question. We keep our hops in a walk-in cooler. It is not freezing at all, and we've never had any back in the day when Keg Connection did ingredients. That's how we stored them. And so the hops we have from our friends at Hops Direct that go into our Trub Club recipes, available at patreon.com/homebrew happy hour, are stored in there as well. Like that is the ideal place to store it. Is freezer storage something better for longevity, James, or do you like the freezer because it's a dry atmosphere? Like you'll store stuff in the freezer, but is there a net benefit between freezer versus just cold fridge?
I think you could keep hops longer if they're frozen, if you keep them in a freezer, especially because when they pack those, they're in the UV bags, UV resistant bags, and then they'll put a vacuum, and some of them they'll inject it with nitrogen and then run a vacuum and then do them that way. I think either way is fine. But if I go back in the day, when I was hoarding ingredients, I would go order a whole bunch of hops, and then I would keep them frozen so I know they would last a lot longer. But if you're using them within 12 months or something like that, I think fridge is just fine, or keezer's just fine. I think you'll be all right. Making a keezer multi-purpose is one of the perks of having a keezer. Like normally a keezer, like even Todd's, he fits 8 kegs in there, his CO2 cylinder, 5 or 6 bodies of regulators, whether it's secondary or the dual body and then the other primary.
He could fit another nitrogen little setup in there if he wanted it, and he still has room on in there if he was going to if he needed it to store hops, to store yeast, whatever. That I think that's a benefit of having such a big keezer. I mean, we even, like my setup here is not ideal in that I don't have any drilled out. I don't have a kegerator and I don't have a keezer. So I use a couple of CM Beckery vent faucets when I open my fridge door and I pour from that way. But because it's a stand-up fridge, I have a ton of shelf space for where I keep my yeast, where I keep hops, and I haven't had any issue. But like you said, is the key must be that you're using the ingredients. And 12 months, that's a long time for something to be stored.
It really is.
Yeah. Were you doing that out of necessity? And also, what was early James Carlson, who went by Hophead, by the way, online? What was Hophead storing for hops? I want to know about this, James Carlson.
Well, back in the day, I was renting a friend of mine. He had a shop. It was a 40 by 60 shop that had living quarters, and the whole front area was like a big showcase, and it had the checkered tile floor and the Coca-Cola display table. And it was a really cool place we called the building. So that's where we did the brewing. And he had a big storage area in the back. And Todd, at the time, he was going back and forth between Austin and Comanche. So we were, because of the fact that we were brewing so much beer, so much larger quantities at one time, I'd have to hoard up. And so in that storage room, I had a freezer, and then I had a bunch of shelves, and it looked like a homebrew store.
No way.
The reason why we did that is we pull our money together because we knew we've used sometimes. I remember one batch, we did almost 100 pounds of grain. And this was between 5-6 guys.
Okay.
And it was big beer. Back then, that's all we were concerned about is how much alcohol we can brew.
Yeah.
And so when I would order, oddly enough, I was ordering from Hops Direct. So we would order it in 1 pound bags. And the first hop I ever ordered from Hops Direct was Cascade.
I was going to guess Cascade. That's like you're brewing some pale ale or IPA and getting Cascade and Centennial. Or what was the other?
Well, East Kent Golding. That was my second hop. And then we were, I don't remember the rest because we really just were brewing amber ales, stouts, and we would brew wheat beer.
Yeah.
And I want to say Willamette. We had ordered some Willamette, but anyway, all of that stuff I kept in a little tiny freezer.
Yeah.
And I would get he had a vacuum machine for because they had a whole deer processing area in that same building. And I would use that vacuum machine every time I'd get hops out. I would vacuum it and put it back in the freezer. And I never could tell a difference. It seemed to keep real well. But because I had bought so much, I'd actually overbought on hops. So I had them for, I had hops. I was using hops 2 years after I bought them.
But
seemed to be fine.
Because they were in the freezer.
I always keep them frozen. Yeah.
Right. So that's the good asterisks on that, because like you said, if it worked for you because they were good for years, you were at a necessity. Where a good chunk of people, probably 12 months, are like, oh no, I meant I'm storing it for 5 months at tops. And or like our recipes, a lot of people get our kits in and throw them in a fridge because they know I'll be able to get to that in a couple of weeks or in 4 weeks or whatever. Yeah, so the fridge is fine for probably 99% of people who aren't buying as bulk. Like you said, different time, but also you don't have a convenience source local to you for ingredients. That's a big I couldn't imagine, with what we were doing back in the day, because this was like 2010, 2011, to have something like we had here, before Todd sold the homebrew side out. Oh, I'd bug the crap out of Todd. I'd probably be here every day. You would have, yeah. Well,
be like, wow, another walk in. That James guy's here again, Todd.
Well, remember, we did have some regulars that were and especially on the phone. I remember,
we'd drive all the way to Austin. Before I met Todd, we would drive to Austin or Fort Worth to get ingredients because shipping was just too out of the question. Nobody had free shipping for 55-pound sacks of two-row, We could go to Austin Homebrew Supply and get it for 59 cents a pound. And then I could get all my other grains. And you could walk in at any time and do a 40-gallon batch with Big Bertha, and we'd have enough grains on the shelf. You could do anything from just a regular 2-row amber to a stout or a wheat beer, because I kept full bags of wheat and full bags of 2-row, and then I had several pounds of roasted malts too. So
you mentioned it was basically like a homebrew shop. Before working for Todd, you were a parts manager for years. Managing and ordering has been your life for many, many years. Did you never consider I should open up a homebrew shop in Duster, Texas?
No, I never thought. I knew how niche of a market it is. And I knew, well, if Abilene didn't have a homebrew supply store and the closest was Austin or Fort Worth, logic dictates that you've got to have pretty large population to make any money
for sure.
and make a go of it. And all those stores, except for Austin Homebrew, were really tiny. So
which they're now closed. And San Antonio's Homebrew Party, which was the last one that I know of, people in the comments can correct me because I speak with authority, but never hardly without knowledge. I believe San Antonio now is without a homebrew supply shop. So
it just shows you. My personal opinion, I think because of the explosion of craft beer, you can get it anywhere. That it's kind of taken some of the steam out of the homebrew business. But I will say the people that are still in it, like you and me and our listeners, are still as passionate or even more so now.
Right. Yep. I agree with that. It the state of the industry can be depressing sometimes when you see all these shops closing up. But we, like our friends at More Beer are still kicking. There's still mom and pop shops around the country. I'd love when we're in San Diego, because San Diego is like a beer mecca. If we could find a homebrew shop, people in the comments, that's what I will solicit right now. What's a good homebrew supply shop we need to visit in the San Diego area? I think that would be fun for us to check it out.
That's farther up north, so I'm not sure. But if we were in the San Francisco area, definitely More Beer.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, if we could visit them for sure. Yeah, they are. I was gonna say we love More Beer. They're a family owned business. We're good friends with those guys. They do good work, and they're actually the ones who bought homebrewsupply.com. So good people. But back to Chris's question, because I took us way down many, many rabbit holes. Storing it in your keezer is perfectly fine. I think James and I both agree.
Totally fine. You're good to go, man.
Unless you're hoping for multiple year storage, in which case, what are you doing? Just brew, man. And then, the second part was his storytelling about we've all been there. By we all, I mean James. James has been there. But
hey, if you can brew it and you can drink it, then it wasn't really a mistake.
Absolutely. So. If you said it's still drinkable, that's all that matters. Don't tell when people are drinking it and like, oh, what is this? Make up a name in confidence and just act like you meant to do it. And then when people in the future ask you if you should brew that batch again, you say it was a limited run. Sorry. I would like to do it again, but it was a limited run. You should
exactly.
Anyways, Chris, thank you so much for submitting that question. Another reminder, when you leave us a voicemail at 325-305-6107, you get a $25 gift card to ketconnection.com, or if you text that same number or leave us a question at the submit a question link at homebrewhappyhour.com, you still get a $15 gift card, which I think is pretty good. Our second question was such that from our buddy Roger, who left us a question at homebrewhappyhour.com. Roger wrote, total newbie, so please bear with me. I bought the Wort Chillers combo pack from KC, that's Cat Connection, and now I'm ready to use it. My brewing buddy says I should barely open my water faucet valve and that the immersion chiller inside the Wort cannot handle a wide open flow. Does this sound right to you? How open should my valve be? What is the risk if I accidentally open it too much? Thank you for the weekly podcast. It has helped me a ton. Roger. I'm not sure flow rate matters on immersion chillers, but
I do. I mean, I argue with Todd on it, and the only thing, the benefit is, I think if you slow it down, you give time for the heat to absorb into the water. You can really tell by the flow if you can run a thermometer over the outflow, and you can literally slow it down and try to get the biggest amount of heat. Because if you got more heat coming out, this is just my opinion. I am not a
flow rate
scientist
expert. I am.
You can slow it down, and at the point where you get the highest temperature, and my primitive mind says if it's got more heat coming out of it, it's pulling more heat out.
Yeah.
So I've slowed it way down. Plus, also the biggest benefit is if it's not helping to increase the flow, why'd you want to waste the water?
Well, without that, you took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, I never think about it. So using the Grainfather, and I did that live brew day on January 1st of 2022. I never open my things full blast because I'm always, you want to talk about primitive mind, James, I'm Neanderthal. I'm lizard brain. I always thought if I do it wide open, I don't want to like blow the tubing off of my chillers, right? But the Grainfather uses a counterflow chiller. And so when it comes time to
I use one too.
Right, you do. And when it comes time to chill, people in the comments are like, "Oh yeah," like they were basically instructing me, "No, with counterflow especially, you want a low flow rate because of the way it works to dry the heat off."
Yeah, you want that heat transfer into the water.
Exactly.
So you slow it down and let it absorb, let the water do its thing.
Yeah, exactly. And so with immersion chillers, the principle is still the same. You're trying to get the heat out of the wort through the transfer process, or through that cold water going through the chiller, is trying to take that with it and out. And but like you said, your last point is the one that makes the most sense to a dumb like me. Like, if I open it wide, if I do a wide open valve, that's just more wasted water. If I can accomplish the same thing with a lower flow rate, why wouldn't I? And guys, don't get me wrong, I'm not Mother Earth, I don't care about. No, I'm kidding. We love the environment here, but my water bill. I know. 1-star reviews.
The comments.
I know. I'll edit that out. No, I won't. But no. My environmental activism aside, I actually care more about my water bill. Like, water's expensive now, and I'm preaching to the choir. Your water rate's crazy high, dude.
Yeah, we have out there in Little Duster, Texas. There was a private company that opened. Laid down the lines and then bought the water from the city and then marked it up along with all the infrastructure they had to put. And it's almost I calculated it one day, and I want to say it was like 4 cents a gallon, something like that. It was crazy. Dude. When we had that mega snowstorm,
2021,
I had my faucets dripping. And I had a $200 water bill.
Dude, your monthly water bill is for you. It's just you and Emily.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's very minimal water use. Your water bill is higher than mine on a 4-bathroom house or 3.5 bathroom house and 5 people.
I've got a water well if I wanted to use the water outside, or this is just what we use in the house, and Emily's with me every other week.
It's crazy how much they charge you. For everything. Your electric rate too is higher than mine. They're just gouging you. You're like,
it's like 18 cents a kilowatt hour. So
it's wild. It's wild. When I complain about like property tax, you're like, you look at me and just like, like, it's because everything on you is just gouged. But anyway, that's one of the main things, guys. Bringing it back to the question. Todd's not here to rein me in. Slower rate, like you said, it makes sense because it's doing the same job. It's just giving that water
I think
more time
it works.
To work.
I mean, it's been my opinion and my little like, once again, I'm not a scientist, but it seems to me like it works a little better.
It's very anecdotal, but it's worked for both of us. Well, I want to hear, Todd's not here to defend himself. He always opens it wide open on his immersion chillers. What was the argument? He was just like, it doesn't make a difference.
According to the laws of thermodynamics, and they'll go into the deep end of the pool on that.
He can't spell thermodynamics. He did not say that.
I just think it makes sense to slow it down to save water, and also let the water, give the water time to absorb the heat.
Absolutely.
It's trying to move out.
No, I agree.
But leave a comment. I could be wrong, but I'm still going to keep doing it because I don't like the idea of wasting water either.
Well, and at the end of the day, what works for you, friends watching at this YouTube or people just listening, whatever works for you, just keep doing it. But I'm with you on this, James, and I don't know. I mean, his brewing buddy who said he should barely open it. What do you do? I do a quarter turn. I mean, I don't know what constitutes barely. When I'm opening,
we have those frost proof or freeze proof faucets outside on the building, so the flow, it has to have a certain flow rate for it to stay open. So you have to find that, and you have to find the point where it's fully open. And then you have to back it off before it starts to chatter, because if it starts chattering, the flow's too low, and it's got a spring in it. I'm not really sure how that frost proof.
Yeah.
I think what happens is it actually opens the valve deeper inside the insulated part of where it's coming through.
Yeah.
and it'll chatter. And what I do is I wait for the chattering to stop and just a little bit more. But on a regular faucet, the best way to tell is have a friend with a thermometer and then just slow the flow down to where you get the highest temperature of the water coming out. And I would say that's probably your ideal flow rate.
Okay. Perfect. That might be something worth filming, where you show a very quick, like, YouTube shorts of how you determine flow rate for your chilling process. Boom. We got it, because when I'm up there next week, you and I got to figure out some stuff to film. There we go.
Yeah.
There's my idea. We can do. It'll be short and sweet. Have you been looking at the comments, by the way, of your MASH video? Not all the comments, because some people leave in novels, but I mean just the reception of it. People love that content. People.
Yeah, and for the people that have watched it or maybe watching this, keep in mind, we by no means are professional brewers. We're doing this just for fun. I think sometimes you can kind of overthink a lot of this stuff, and we want to keep it fun and light. And it was a neat experiment that created really good beer. I don't know if you had a chance to try your keg.
No, I know, because I just took it to my dad's that day.
Yeah,
and
mine's gone.
Yeah, you told me that. You that was like 5 gallons in 5 days.
It was a really good. It had a really good flavor, and it was light, and it was dry. I wouldn't say super dry, but it was very, very crushable.
Yeah. I mean, what I like about 2023 James Carlson, your willingness to try things, like your adaptation. Like, people left me that comment. They've left me that feedback where they're like, I'm glad, because sometimes we do get accused. I think I put this in the description. We do get accused of being old dogs who won't learn new tricks. And we're like, no, this is the only way. But we've kind of, since redoing the show from episode 58 to today, when you became a regular staple, we kind of decided to be very transparent. Like, guys, here's what we like to do. Here's what works for us. But if enough people like push us, like, I really think you should try this. I think it started with pressure fermentation, like you said.
Yeah, with Jonathan.
And now that's almost all you do.
That's all I do.
Yeah.
That's all I've done ever since we got the equipment, the splending valves. I pressure ferment everything.
Yeah, exactly. And you've been creating some incredible lagers quick. I mean, that overnight pills, it really turned out, it surprised the heck out of me, because I really didn't expect it to be as drinkable. It's one of my favorite beers. Now, do you think you have to replicate the process to replicate that beer? You're going to do another overnight mash?
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely going to do it again. And I think probably I'm not going to do anything different. I'm going to do everything the same. And see if I can recreate the same thing, same recipe, same temperature when we shut it off.
I like it.
I know we'd gotten some comments about that probably wasn't the best way to do that. But man, if the end result is a really good tasting,
then you want that every
fantastic beer, I think that maybe we can argue that point.
Yeah, then you'd
say, it'd be nice if we could. It'd be nice in a different world if we could put samples in the. We can't technically do it, but if it was legally we were able to send samples out with our Patreon members, that would be one I would say, hey, here's what it tastes like. What do you think? But legally we can't do that.
That's right. We can't legally do that. But my Tourette's is acting up. But I will figure out maybe. No, that's actually a great idea. I still have some of those crafty shippers.
Of course, I know there's going to be some people that say, well, that's probably not the same beer they brewed. But, if we could legally do that and say, here's the results, just one bottle in each deal, that would be cool to do if we could legally do it.
I don't know if this is what you're implying, but that reminds me, when we did the episode of Recipe Recap about Kolsch, which is, I think, the only one I might not have ever published. But the Kolschweizen, I think I confessed to y'all, it was such a bad batch that I almost relabeled Fru and brought it for that episode. So y'all be like, oh my God, Josh, this turned out great. And I'd be like, y'all think so? Thank you so much. This is awesome. Anyways, so this is, again, another question, guys. We would love your feedback in the comments below. Or if you want a $25 gift card, leave it as a voicemail at 325-305-6107. We'll play it on a future episode about flow rate. Do you pay a lot of attention to it, or is it something like relax, don't worry, have a homebrew, which is the mantra of Todd Burns lately? How many times in our group chat will he show us something on brew day messing up, and I'll freak out, and he'll be like, he'll do the abbreviation for relax, don't worry, have a homebrew. And I'm like, that's why his blood pressure he has low blood pressure, because nothing phases the man. But anyways, Speaking of $25 gift cards and voicemails, our third and final question is a voicemail at our hotline, 325-305-6107, from our buddy James from Michigan.
Hey guys, this is James up in Rochester Hills, Michigan. I've had a couple questions on the show, and just wanted to find out your thoughts on when adding bourbon barrel oak chips to the fermenter. Does adding the bourbon pose a risk of possibly not having enough yeast left for carbonation in bottles? Now, I know you guys are keg-centric, but wanted to just kind of see if that would be a possible biological issue, with the alcohol in the bourbon potentially killing off any remaining yeast while in the fermenter, and then when you go to bottle condition, not having enough to fully carbonate the bottles. I've had that problem with a couple of stouts or porters I've done that have used the oak chips as a way to make it have that bourbon barrel taste. The taste is there and it's good, but all the directions I see in recipes say to add the whole bourbon and wood chips solution together and not drain the bourbon out and just add the wood chips. And I'm wondering if that's why I'm having flat beer. So sorry for the choppy voicemail here. If you want to give me a shout back, 58.
Oh, cut off his voicemail. No, I don't think it was choppy. I think we got everything we needed to. And
it sounded great.
And I swear I listened to it, Todd, before I played it. And I did see the apology, and I was like listening to it. Go, it's not choppy. Then that one part, but he got all the information out there. Okay. First and foremost, we don't bottle. I don't bottle. Mm-hmm. James, are you a secret bottler? You don't bottle.
No.
You never
did from
it day one.
Clay forced me to bottle one time, and I promised I would never do it ever again.
That's right. Clay made you. That's right. He has to come on the show, like I said earlier, and address this. This is libel, Clay. Todd, the last time I bottled, and I'm putting air quotes for audio listeners, because Todd did a filming about extract brewing and all that, and showing the various ways of packaging your beer when the batch is done. And that's the only time I've ever even been involved in the bottling process. When Todd was running the business out of his home in San Marcos, which is the town I live in now, he always kegged back then. I don't know. Bottling was never appealing to him. Obviously, in your early days, bottling was never appealing to you. No. And as someone who is the recipient of 5 gallons from you and Todd, and sometimes my dad and I brew, bottling's just not appealing. But I'm not trying to just rail against bottling. We're answering James' question. I'm just saying that because this might be another question we need some feedback on, especially regarding bourbon barrel oak chips. Because if we were doing it in the keg, it's not going to be a big deal. The flavor is going to come in there, and we're going to carbonate to whatever level we want using the forced carbonation method that the three of us do. But putting ourselves in the hypothetical kind of person that would want a bottle, and you're doing this kind of big beer, is it wrong for me to say this style isn't probably usually heavily carbonated anyway?
I would think so. A bourbon barrel stout definitely is going to be a lower volume of CO2 carbonation, kind of like an old English ale, a cask ale. My suggestion would be go into Google and pull up any. First of all, the most important thing is to make sure that your yeast can tolerate the kind of ABV you're adding. If you're adding quite a bit of alcohol to that, along with the chips, and it's raising it over the threshold that the yeast can tolerate, then the yeast can't survive at that ABV level. Then you need to find a yeast that can, and that may be the easiest fix for your problem. Probably will take care of the problem. That's what I would do first, is just make sure if you're pitching yeast that can't tolerate that kind of alcohol, there's your problem.
Absolutely.
If it can't eat sugars and produce CO2 and whatever little alcohol it is, carbonate, then it's going to be flat. It's not going to produce anything.
And there's also, I know we were going with it too. There are also yeast pitching calculators for or pardon me, priming sugar calculators. There are yeast pitching calculators too. Our friends at Brewer's Friend have a fantastic slew of calculators there. Homebrewhappyhour.com now has a slew of calculators. Would you say it would be, so you find the strain that you know can handle the workload, and then you go look at what is needed in regards to building the solution of priming sugar for that batch?
Here's what everybody needs to remember, especially if you're bottling. Do not put too much sugar in it, because you don't want to have bottle bombs. That's why using a calculator is so important. So if you go into the one that we have listed, or the one that's on Brewer's Friend, excuse me.
Them too. Yeah.
The cool thing about Brewer's Friend calculators, you can scroll down at the bottom and it'll give you style and recommended volumes of CO2.
Yep. So
you can go in there, you type in the temperature, you type in, I pulled that up earlier. I don't bottle, but okay. So what it's asking for is, first it wants to know how many gallons is being packaged, or how many gallons of beer are you bottling? Then how many volumes of CO2? And then what's the temperature of the beer? So if it's room temp, let's say it's 70 degrees, type in 70, update. You're going to have 3 ounces of table sugar, or 3.4 ounces of corn sugar, 4.6 ounces of DME. So it lists all these fermentable sugars that you can use. And then if you scroll down farther down, it'll tell you that British style ales is 1.5 to 2, and Belgian's 1.9 to 2.4, all the way down to German wheat beer, which is the highest, 3.3 to 4.5 volumes of CO2. So that's one of the things you should also punch in on the calculators. Not only the amount being packaged, but also the volumes of CO2 you desire. And I like 2.5. And typically when I've got beer in the conical, it's cold, it's 45 degrees. And so I would do 3.1 ounces of table sugar, 3.5 ounces of corn sugar, 3.5 ounces of brown sugar, corn syrup 4.6, sorghum 4.6 ounces. You get the idea.
No, I like it. It is thorough, and I will say, I know their owner, who he doesn't like to be named, so I won't name him. But our good friend Lorena watches this show sometimes. I apologize for basically ripping off y'all's calculators and putting them on homebrewhappyhour.com. I found a developer from Malaysia. She was like $8 an hour. No, kidding aside, their calculators were so good. We got permission. They're from the Homebrew Supply one, the old ones that we had on there. I did move them over to Homebrew Happy Hour, but again, for transparency's sake, I always just pull it up on my phone on Brewer's Friend. It's just easier. Brewer's Friend is what the three of us typically use if we use anything. Now, actually, again, for transparency on transparency, I actually use the Grainfather app now when I'm brewing on the Grainfather, but 95% of the time, Brewer's Friend is what we're using. And like you said, the calculators, there's no reason to not be using them throughout your brew day for any part of the brew day process. Like the calculators available there are good for the entire brew day, and just help you, give you peace of mind for knowing that what to expect, right? That's
absolutely.
So would you say, to wrap it up, because I know I've got to let you go very, very soon, that using well, first off, your first solution was finding the strain of yeast that can handle the workload.
Yeah, you want to make sure it works in that ABV range that you're wanting it to work in. And the next step is to use a calculator, get the calculations right. Nobody wants bottle bombs, and that's about it.
And then third, is to understand that the style may not need a ton of carbonation.
Yeah.
It may.
Yeah, and you can figure that up, decide how many volumes of CO2 you want. Yeah. And go that way. Don't do a lot of bottling, but if I can give you any advice, follow the calculators, because then at least you don't have to worry about if it's going to explode.
Yeah,
2 or 3 days.
My breakfast stout, Todd said, was undercarbed, but when I drew from it the same keg I brought him, I was like, I like it like that. He added carbon, and again, carbonation a lot of the times in the keg can be tailored to one's what you
Sure.
like, your preferences. That's why I'm pushing kegging on you, James. I'm putting out you, James Carlson, James from Michigan.
Yeah.
Go to catchingetchin.com, use promo code HHH, get yourself some money saved, and get a keg kit, James. What do we got to do?
Yeah, because at least you could force carbonate the exactly what you want. You don't have to worry about messing with yeast. And then you've got the trub. See, I said it right. At the bottom of that, in the bottle. And so, you can also get you a Blinkman makes a beer gun.
Oh, it's
you can use to fill the bottles.
Exactly.
And do it that way. And you get the best of both worlds.
Best
You've got
of
the
both.
draft beer, which tastes better to me.
Yep.
And then you can also bottle if you want and growler fill.
And share that way. Absolutely.
And share, yep.
We're on the same page. My friend, I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to hang out with me. That's all the questions I have for the show. I'll catch you later, James.
All right. See ya.
And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or you can call and be Todd's best friend by leaving us a voicemail at 325-305-6107. Thank you to our show's sponsors like Munton's Malt, premium grains for a better brew day. If you haven't already brewed with Munton's Malts, give them a try by visiting txbrewing.com or join our Chub Club at a recipe receiving level. For the best hops available online, give our friends at hopsdirect.com a visit and pick up what you need for your next brew day. And also, you'll get a pack of Imperial yeast along with premium recipes from us when you join the Chub Club. I'm running out of breath. Go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour and come brew with us. On behalf of Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thanks for listening.